Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for the Q&As, so let's go ahead and knock this out. Alright, first question. Hey coach, what are your thoughts on doing Wendlers 531 and adding hypertrophy work on top of the program? For example, on deadlift day doing the program, then adding 4x8 pull-ups and 4x8 barbell rows. Would this be suitable for an athlete playing a contact sport? Thanks. I kind of am bothered by the fact that this is 2018 and you said the word hypertrophy work. Bro, come on, keep up with the trends. Even Dr. Bro, Brad Schoenfeld, is saying there is no such thing as hypertrophy work. That all rep ranges have the potential to develop maximum hypertrophy, right? This is understood, it's known. There is no such thing as hypertrophy work. So, why don't you just use the rep ranges that are more appropriate for what you're trying to do? In other words, if you're in the blocks to where you're doing the 5 rep sets, then maybe you could do that extra work in like the 5 to 8 rep range. Then maybe the 3 to 5 rep range on the 3 rep weeks. And then when you get to those 1 rep weeks, you could do 1 to 3, right? Because some people are going to say, oh no, you can't do 1 to 3 on chin-ups and rows. You know what? I hit maxes on chin-ups right now. I train chin-ups for 1 rep maxes. You know why? Because I want to get strong. So that's perfectly fine to do it that way. And if you wanted to add a bunch of volume, you have the big but boring template already on there that's already a time-proven protocol also. So you could do the big but boring on top of it. But yeah, as far as doing some extra pulling, I don't think that's a bad idea, but here's what I might recommend. Your contact sport athlete, why don't you do some power cleans and power snatches? That's what I would recommend. Instead of rows, why don't you clean and snatch? Back, why don't you clean and snatch on all your training days? Now, the chin-ups aren't a bad idea. I mean, if you want to add some weighted bodyweight exercises, chin-ups are fantastic. Weighted dips are fantastic. I think those could be good additions to this program. But I'm going to say, at the very least, on those squat and deadlift days, I wouldn't add rows in. I would clean and snatch. That's what you need to be doing as a contact sport athlete. All right, next question. My younger brother just told me he's going to stop bench pressing and only do dumbbells and cables for chest. Says benching hurts his shoulders, and all the dudes in the gym say dumbbells are superior to the flat bench. How can I factually prove him wrong? He's 22. Your little brother is 22 years old. You can't factually prove anything wrong to him because at age 22, he literally knows everything about every subject in the world. And anyone who is older and more experienced than him is a complete dumbass who is completely incapable of doing anything. In fact, anyone who's older than him probably is too stupid to figure out how to tie their own damn shoes. All right, he's 22. He knows almost everything. Now, when he was 18, he literally knew everything. But at 22, he knows almost everything. And he knows that anyone who's 25 or older is a dumbass. You can't convince him of anything. All I could say is that you could talk to him about range of motion, total tension on the muscles, all of that. As far as his shoulders hurting from benching, he doesn't know how to bench press. I would recommend you teach him how to perform the bench press. And, like with everything else, dumbbells might have a range of motion benefit until the dumbbells get too big, and then they end up having sometimes just as short, if not a shorter range of motion to a barbell done correctly. So as far as factually proving that to him, I've got plenty of videos discussing why the barbell is superior. I've even got videos explaining why dips are superior in every way to dumbbells. And as far as the cables go, man, I mean, if it's all these bros are going to lead him down that route of thinking he needs to isolate his pecs and do cable flies and stuff, you know what? Just let him do his thing. You continue to train heavy. You get bigger and stronger than him. Stay bigger and stronger than him, and eventually he will maybe come around and realize he's been led down a ridiculous road. And if he doesn't, then you know what? You can't help everyone. You can't help everyone you care about. It's an old expression that was told to me by someone I hated when I was younger, actually, but he told me, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And it usually involved me not being interested in what he had to say, but he was right on that. It is what it is. All right, next question. Hey Jason, long-time subscriber from Germany here. When setting up Bulgarian style training, can I alternate exercises with the same movement patterns, or is it necessary to do the exact same exercise every day? For example, when I back squat on Monday, front squat on Tuesday, back squat on Wednesday, front squat on Thursday, would that violate the extreme specificity of Bulgarian training, or could I set it up the other way? If so, does it apply to alternation between bench and overhead press? Actually, I was doing exactly what you just asked, other than I was doing floor press and overhead press. But yeah, I ran a couple week phase here recently where I did exactly that. I would back squat one day, then front squat the next. Now I've switched back over to pure back squatting for a while to get some better specificity. But as far as that goes, this is a good way to avoid stagnation and overuse injuries. I'm not telling you that you should do this full time, because there's going to be periods of time where you want to exclusively do the same solid squat every day because you want that specificity, you want that general buildup. But when you stagnate or you stall sometimes, rotating in one of these other lifts can help you get through the law of accommodation a bit, and it can help you break through a plateau and maybe bring up some weak points. So in this case, why would you front squat instead of back squat? Maybe because your quads are the limiting factor on your squat for a while. And if that's the case, it makes sense to alternate them. It absolutely makes sense to alternate them. And so it's okay to rotate in other exercises. Just keep in mind that any exercise that you are really passionate about, that you are doing the Bulgarian training specifically for, make sure you're training that lift at least 3 times a week. In some cases, 4 might be your minimum. And so then you have 2 to 3 other days to where you can rotate in a variation if you need to. And that's perfectly acceptable. That's an acceptable way to run the program. Is that true Bulgarian style training? No. No, it's not. Is it a workable method for general overall strength or for powerlifting and things like that? Yes, it is. And it works very well, in my opinion, to do it that way. Not full time, but at least for periods of time here and there. It's not a bad idea. So I think you're on the right track with your thinking. All right, next question. Now this next one is a doozy. Coach, do you believe sugar taxes are a good way to combat the obesity crisis? If so, how do you reconcile this with your libertarian views such as freedom? For me, it crosses a line when my taxes end up subsidizing people who can't be bothered looking after themselves. Here in Australia, we have universal health care. All right, this is the point we get into. As someone who's more of a libertarian conservative, I don't believe in universal health care. And I know some people are going to say, oh my God, because it flies in the face of libertarianism and self-accountability and self-reliance. And my other problem with it becomes the only way to be fair to the taxpayer is to actually take it a step further. No, I don't believe in taxing it. Oh, no, 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 no. If I, as the taxpayer, am forced to pay for your health care, as a libertarian, you've just now made me a business partner. Your body is now my property. From a business perspective, I own your body because I'm subsidizing your health care. Therefore, I want it to be illegal for anyone to sell you sugar or fried foods or trans fats. I want that person executed. I want that to be the death penalty, because we need to completely eliminate the access of every person who I'm paying for their health care. I'm a business partner. I'm a part owner of their body, and I have a vested interest as a property owner, because they're now my property, because I'm paying for it, right? I don't want them to have access at all. And that's the only thing that's fair. That's the only thing that's fair to the taxpayer who is being forced against their will to pay taxes to subsidize your health care. Then they need to have a say in what you are allowed to have at all. Taxing, oh, no, no, no. They need to have a direct say in what you put into your body. They need to actually put you in prison if you don't exercise, if the taxpayer then votes on that, because they're paying for your body. It's their property too now. So I would much rather not have to deal with that at all, so that we just deal with general freedom, so that my freedoms aren't being violated paying for you to treat your body like crap. So I'm not being taxed against my will to pay for you. And if you want health care, you can go work and pay for it, unless a person is really medically disabled, in which case that's fine. That's different. That's a welfare situation, and those are legitimate cases sometimes. But in that case, then I would rather not have the socialized medicine at all, so then you are free to do with your body as you please, because it's your property, it's your responsibility, and then that also includes the consequences of your behavior, in which case it's all about freedom. That's what I would rather have. Everyone just be free. Do as you please as long as you don't hurt anyone else. But again, the moment you're taking my money, it's now my business. And if I'm paying for your health care, then your body is my property. You're my slave. I get to say what you put into it. And that's only fair from a business perspective, because I'm having to subsidize it. Therefore, I get a say. All right, next question. I can't figure out which squat is better for quad development, wide squats or shoulder width / close stance squats. What is your experience on the matter? I know performing both is best for GPP, but I'm currently recomping. Would love your input on the matter. What's going to be best for quads? Well, that's a point of contention, isn't it? Because some stances are going to be less quad dominant, but if you can use more weight, even if you hit a few percentages less quad involvement, does it matter? Doesn't matter, does it? It really doesn't. But what I would say is that if your quads are really a weak link, and that's the reason you're doing this, then do some front squats as an accessory. But generally speaking, high bar squats with a slightly narrower stance are going to be more quad dominant, and the more extreme version of that would be the front squat, which is again just taking high bar to the next level. And wider stance and lower bar tends to involve more hips, more hamstring, things like that. Right? It puts more of the load on those joints. But in some cases, if you lift more weight, your quads are still getting sufficient stimulation. So we get into a big circle jerk here, don't we? We get into a great big circle jerk. What is the reason you're wanting to target the quads more? Is it so that you can lift more weight, so you can have more balanced development, or are you wanting to bring them up because you feel they're a weak link? And are they really that big of a weak link? I mean, do your hips need the extra development, the extra strength? I don't really have enough data here to really give you the answer you're looking for, unfortunately, other than what I gave you. Front squats are the most quad dominant. Right behind that's going to be, medium stance, fairly medium stance, high bar squats. But at the end of the day, you need to figure out why is it that you are specifically looking for a quad dominant squat. Do you actually have a reason for it? Or are you just doing it because you want your quads to grow? Well, your quads are going to grow. Get your squat up to 500 plus pounds and you're not going to have small quads. Pretty straightforward. All right, next question. You have mentioned that adding more volume on the presses is better than isolating the triceps for hypertrophy. I do full body 3 times a week and perform pause bench, overhead press, and standing tricep extensions each session. If I substitute the tricep extensions with another press, floor press or pause incline bench, can the additional pressing volume be detrimental for recovery? Or will the body adapt to the excess pressing volume over time? Well, no, recovery is going to be very dynamic, but here's my question to you. Do you really think that doing the standing triceps extensions isn't having a recovery component also? Meaning you're going to still have the localized recovery issue. You're going to have the localized connective tissue recovery issue. They're going to be harder on your tendons and your elbows than most of the pressing is going to be. So I guess it's an issue of, are you talking about your finite recovery of your body, or are you talking about localized recovery of specific parts? And the other question I would ask to you, it really depends on what you're trying to do. If you're completely happy with the size of your delts and your pecs, and your triceps are lagging, then maybe it would be an issue. But here's the other thing. If you know that your delts or your chest need to grow more, they're not big enough, then the most obvious use is that it makes more sense to definitely do a compound. I mean, it's the question we get into is that you can train to the limits of your recovery with those compounds. If you have multiple muscles that need to grow, why wouldn't you just pick the exercises that are going to stimulate multiple of those muscles at once and recover as you are able? And if you need to pull systematic recovery out and say those muscles are really lagging and you have something else that is already where you want it, stop adding weight to the bar on that. In other words, if your posterior chain and your lower back are the size you're happy with them at for a few months, but your triceps and delts are lagging, then stop adding weight to the bar on the deadlift. If you're deadlifting 400 for 3 reps, then stop at 400 for 3 reps. If you're deadlifting 500 for 3 reps, stop at 500 for a while. Let it sit and put your recovery into doing more work on the lifts that are going to bring up the areas that you're more concerned with at the moment. This isn't difficult. That will resolve the issue of the systematic recovery. But back to the other point, if you get as strong as possible on your pause bench, your overhead press, and your weighted chin-ups, as strong as you possibly can, are your triceps really going to be lagging? I doubt that they are. I doubt that they are. Maybe compared to guys who are pinning theirs full of synthol, but they're not really lagging. So again, it comes down to the issue of what are you trying to do? What is it that you are seeking to fix specifically with selecting this tricep movement? And if it's a systematic recovery issue, can you pull the progression somewhere else that isn't as important? And that's how you resolve that. It's about prioritizing your recovery resources. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.